Iowa State is going to the college football playoffs. I repeat, Iowa State is going to the college football playoffs, or at least Brad Crawford thinks so. And I agree. That's what we're talking about today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Today, we're talking two segments of football. We're going to start off with some predictions, some rankings that have come out, and where Iowa State sits. I'll honestly go through the schedule a little bit because I do think that some of them are legitimate. Then we're going to talk about some recruiting, some 2026 recruiting class numbers that are out and where Iowa State sits in that. And then finally, we're going to talk about the Iowa State basketball incoming freshmen, namely Jamarian Bateman, and why I think that they are going to be a very key piece to this team next year. Can't wait to dive into all that and more. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet winning. Obviously, can't wait to talk about this football team more in the fall. But for now, we've kind of got to talk about some predictions, some rankings that have come out. And I'll start by, breaking down Brad Crawford saying that Iowa State's going to make the CFP just because that's how I started this show. And I do think that's legit. And I'll back that up with kind of some other rankings in the schedule and whatnot. Based on what Brad Crawford thinks, Iowa State will be the 4 seed in this coming playoff, playing in the Cotton Bowl against the winner of the 5-12 matchup. Very exciting to see that somebody has Iowa State kind of in that conversation. The rest of the 12 go Ohio State at 1, Texas at 2, Clemson at 3, and then Iowa State at 4. Penn State, Navy, 5-12, so that's who Iowa State, in theory, would be facing. Oregon and LSU at 8 and 9. Notre Dame and Georgia at 6 and 11. And then Alabama and Miami at 7 and 10 there. So, this is all kind of just thoughts at this point. And I don't know if, everyone agrees with everything that's in this prediction, but when you look at it, there is still only one Big 12 team on this list. I'm re-skimming, so I make sure I didn't get that wrong. But no, that is right. There is only one Big 12 team on this list. So that means that, yet again, the Big 12 will only be represented by the conference winner. That's not ideal, and it's probably, unfortunately, the case. But I would love to see, of course, at least the runner-up or something make the playoff. But the way that everything is set up right now, that's just not how things are going to go down. There are 2 ACC teams in. I didn't do this counting before, but Clemson and Miami both making it allegedly per this. It is what it is. A lot of Big Ten, a lot of SEC. I think that's a reality we have to get ready to face. But Iowa State winning the Big 12 it's not out of the question. And so after spring ball, there were some rankings that came out, a couple of different ones that I saw, but I've got this one pulled up right here. Joel Klatt ranked Iowa State at 17 in the top 25 after spring ball. That's higher than the other one I saw. Iowa State was at 19 in that one. The other Big 12 teams in this list by Joel Klatt, BYU at 14, Arizona State at 15, Kansas State at 16, and then Iowa State at 17. 4 Big 12 teams in 4 consecutive spots there. I don't know if they just got down to 15 or 14. They were like, all right, we got to put some Big 12 teams in here. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know. I'm assuming that's not the case. But Iowa State still, in per this, a top 4 ranked Big 12 team. And in the other list, I believe Iowa State was second or third with less Big 12 teams in the top 25. Yes, this is tough to really gauge, but at least we have something, with the spring ball that, it's not just completely made up. Like if we were to rank the top 25 for basketball for next season, it's kind of just like, this is what I think could happen. this is what happened last year. This is who they're getting. And we do that and we talk about it because, obviously opinions, sometimes they're right. They're actually accurate of what could happen in the future. So it's worth mentioning. But at the end of the day, still just opinions. So I wanted to look through kind of the schedule for Iowa State and what games could we win? What games could we probably, maybe slip up on? And I do think Kansas State right away to start things off is going to be tough. I really do. They're going to be a tough team. I do think that there is upside to facing such a tough team right away. But at the same time, you drop one of these non-conference games because you're on the road in Ireland. You're playing another top 25 team by many accounts right now. I don't know where they'll officially be at the beginning of the season or anything like that, but a tough team to start things off with this season. Let's say they grab that one. We could go based on the rankings and say that it's Iowa State, and Joel Klatt's rankings is ranked lower. And if you just want to go chalk across the board, which I thought about doing, Iowa State would lose that one. I don't really want to do that though, because it's like that's never how it goes. Who had Kansas just tearing up the end of the Big 12 season last year? I don't think really anybody did. So it's not really fair to go just based on chalk numbers, though they are quite tempting. And, I might take that into account here. But let's say they beat Kansas State. Let's say they do it in Ireland. I think that's a toss-up. At this moment, Kansas State solid. Iowa State also really good. You're going to be on the road. Who knows? First game of the season, too. So kind of a flip of a coin, at least at this moment. I'm going to take Iowa State in that one. Then they're going to beat South Dakota at home, of course. Like that's a given. They're going to beat Iowa at home. That's a given. I know you agree. And then you're getting into Arkansas State, final non-conference game on the road, Arkansas State. And, that should be a win. It really should. I'm going to chalk it up to a win just because if the season that we think could happen is going to happen, this has to be a win, and so we're going to play that game here and really go into the conference schedule more than anything else. Now, I will say Iowa State can drop these 4 games and still make the playoff because of the automatic bid situation by winning the Big 12. It's not the end of the world, but it would feel nice to go into the conference slate with a 4-game win streak. And then you got a bye, and then you got Arizona at home. Very winnable game. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed, but I do think Iowa State gets Arizona, and then they go to Cincinnati and they win that one as well. Colorado, in Colorado at elevation, that's one I could potentially see going south, just because we talked about Colorado and like the transfer portal rankings and all of that, where they might be able to rebound. When the season ended last year, I really thought that they were going to be in a tough spot. They would probably slide a little bit in the Big 12. Definitely a solid team last year, but lost some really key pieces. And Shedeur going to the 5th round. I don't think that that's indicative of how good this team was or how good he was for this team. And so I thought, maybe they would slip up a little bit and they wouldn't be as strong this year. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I'm not saying they're going to lose to Colorado, but they could. Okay, so let's put that one as like a little star. We'll give them the win there, but it's on the road. And Colorado looks like they might be okay. So, and it's also Dion. Like sometimes you got to understand the situation there. Then they'll get BYU at home. Now, BYU, another team that was really good last year. A lot of people thought they should have been in the Big 12 championship. They weren't. They don't get too worried about it. Obviously, it was numbers. It wasn't opinions that put Iowa State in that championship game. Nonetheless, BYU still very good, making moves this offseason. That's one that I wouldn't be too shocked if Iowa State lost. Kind of back-to-back tough ones there, Colorado and BYU. Let's say they go 1-1 through there. I think that's a fair kind of guess because I don't know which one they'll drop, but probably 2 really tough teams there. And then you go right from that into Arizona State. So I say like tough 2-game stretch, tough 3-game stretch. But luckily BYU and Arizona State both at home. So that's going to help in some regard. Obviously, Pack the Jack, a very real thing here. And so if you look at it, Iowa State, if they go 1-1 through Colorado and BYU, which I would love to say they're going to go undefeated, but we've already we've kind of stretched it a little bit already. So Iowa State 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, and then 7-1 through the first 8 games is where I have them. We're going to finish up these rankings right after this, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of where that could put them, obviously, in the playoff, but also recruiting down the road. So don't go anywhere. Football conversation coming back right after this. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. So we're rolling through the schedule here at Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For this football team this upcoming season, 7-1 through the first 8. That's a good start. That is a very good start. I will say, before we get too far, that I am not going to do this for every team. I don't have the time to go through every Big 12 team's schedule and guess where they fall and whatnot. So I'm just going to end up with Iowa State's final record, and we just got to guess that that's going to be good enough. So 7-1 going into Arizona State at home. Tough game. And I'm not going to lie to you. They are going to be a challenge. I went to the Big 12 championship game last year. Unbelievable experience. But that team, Iowa State looked rattled. Cam Scattaboo, people told me, you're going to learn his name. I learned it. Okay, I absolutely did. Something that I won't forget, him running all over that field. But obviously, no longer an Arizona State Sun Devil. I believe he's a New York Giant. So that's going to go into this. Now, that's not to say that Arizona State lost a bunch of people. They have a very good roster coming back. So I think Iowa State, I think they lose that one right now. But that doesn't mean that they can't win it. I really do think that this team is unbelievably good, this Iowa State team. It's tough just because I don't know what the wide receivers are going to do, but I do think that the linebacker room being significantly better, like the defense was a major problem against Arizona State, and provided they stay healthy, that could be like a huge swing right in this one, where if Iowa State's able to get some really solid defense going, and maybe the tight ends are huge for this team, which I think they will be. And Carsen Hansen, we know what his role is. And maybe both Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend really kind of come into their own there. I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know. So we're doing this kind of for fun. Let's say they drop Arizona State, because I think they get TCU on the road. Granted, Fort Worth, very hot, but it's November. It'll be fine. Kansas in Ames, that's a win as well, in my opinion. That one is the one that they'll be coming off a bye. So after TCU, there's a bye. They'll face Kansas. Then they got Oklahoma State in Stillwater. I think that's a very gettable game as well. So really, they're only dropping 2 is what I just kind of mocked them up to be. 1-0 over Kansas State, 2-0 over South Dakota, 3-0 over Iowa, 4 over Arkansas State, 5 Arizona, 6 Cincinnati. Let's say they get Colorado, that's 7. They lose to BYU, 7-1. They drop a second, they're 7-2 through Arizona State, and then they get their final 3 to go 10-2. Now, that's a pretty good record. Is that enough to get them into the Big 12 title game? I couldn't tell you for sure, because I don't know, if those 2 losses to BYU and Arizona State are going to be head-to-heads that matter. I don't know if, maybe Colorado, if that's the one we drop, if Colorado goes undefeated. Like, I can't tell you for sure, but I think that puts Iowa State in a very good position to make a run at the Big 12 title game. And yeah, back-to-back 10-win seasons, really cool. Obviously, something that I think we can all get on board with. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the wins and losses. Comments below at at Nick_Marvel on Twitter. You can send me that stuff there as well. I read it all. So for better or worse, I think they can do it. I don't think that Brad Crawford is that far off. I do wish that there would be two Big 12 teams in that college football playoff, but I guess only time will tell. All right, let's talk a little bit about this kind of recruiting deal. I've seen some numbers coming out about the recruiting rankings, and they give all these numbers to players and the stars and whatever. Iowa State comes in at 6 in the Big 12. According to this On3 article here, Arizona State at 1, 88.8. Okay, 88.88. They've got 3 4-stars, 7 3-stars. Kansas 88.339. These numbers kind of arbitrary a little bit, but Houston 88.085. Baylor 87.922. Oklahoma State 87.765. Iowa State 87.499. By my count, 87.499 to 88. What was it? 888 or 88? I guess 88.880. That's only 1.37 or whatever whatever it would be. I don't know what that number even means. Is that like 1 yard, right? Like 1 yard's not that many yards, but like 1 ton is a lot of pounds. So it's kind of tough to gauge, but like 1 pound. Anyways, getting a little bit off track here. My point is, I think that Iowa State coming in at 6, I think that's pretty good compared to, obviously there's not only 6 teams in the Big 12, so definitely in a decent spot. They're in the middle a little bit. 1 4-star in Jet Tamala, and then 11 3-stars is what I'm looking at here. It says 13 total commits, but that doesn't add up, so I don't have that list right in front of me. I just didn't even realize that their math didn't add up. Maybe they forgot to add a number, and Iowa State's at 3. I don't know in the rankings. But the addition of Jet Tamala, I think, is a really good one for the future. I just saw some targets for 2027, some offers that were made by Iowa State targeting some not weak spots per se, but definitely areas that it wouldn't hurt them to target. Let's say it that way. I think that this is it's not a worry for me. I looked at the roster. We're very young, especially in the running back room. Nobody over redshirt sophomore except for Carsen Hansen, who's a junior. So a lot of time there. Rocco, I don't know if he'll go to the league after this year or if he'll come back. I just don't know off the top of my head. I haven't talked to him, and the season hasn't happened. So I don't know. But Alex Mansky, Connor Moberly, the top 3 in the depth chart there, 2 very good quarterbacks. And then Jet Tamala, is that a situation where, he just comes in right away and makes an immediate impact and has 2-3 years at Iowa State? Or does he, kind of a JJ Cole situation, sit behind, end up transferring out? It's hard to really know, but based on what we've seen, I think Jet Tamala could come in and make a big difference right away. Talking about some of these other positions, offensive line, something that Matt Campbell's been very excited about. Relatively young, just looking at this list here that they sent out for the spring football training deal. Couple seniors, but a lot of, young guys on this roster as I'm looking at it. And then obviously the 2 transfers that they brought in from, I think it was Wisconsin and then Indiana, going to help with longevity at the offensive line position. So not too worried about this recruiting, ranking. Tight end, relatively young there as well. Obviously, we've talked so much about Kooper Alexander and how I think he could just be tremendous for this team down the road. At wide receiver, that's maybe the oldest that Iowa State is. Maybe I'm just looking, quickly here, but both Sowell and Townsend having 2 years, very solid there. On the defensive side of the ball, at DB, relatively young group, relatively. We've heard kind of, not that this position group is immature, but that they have room to mature essentially. And that's, I wonder if that's a product of just the general age, experience. And so long term, I don't think it's the end of the world. Basically what I'm saying here is this team is young. Okay. It's not like we've got a full team of seniors. If that was the case, we'd be in a lot of trouble. That's what would happen. I'm not too worried about that ranking, especially because, you factor in my opinion, relatively young team, but also the transfer portal is so big now. And what will it look like in a few years? I don't know. I don't know if there will be restrictions put in place or contracts or whatever. I have no idea. But this team can get a lot better through the portal as well. Like, yeah, you're going to want to get people out of high school that are really, really good, bring them into the program. I think if they come to Iowa State, they have a much higher likelihood of staying here than they do at some other programs across the country. And that's not a knock on other programs, but more of a this is how good Iowa State is kind of comment. And then the final side of that is like, obviously they're going to stay, and the transfers is just so key now. You have to succeed in the transfer portal, in my opinion. And Iowa State has been doing that, I think. Not getting the huge names per se, but keeping guys is also a part of it as well. Like Rocco had a lot of offers to go to the SEC. We talked about the Nico Iamaleava, Tennessee position, and how they were gunning for him, and that was in the spring, let alone in the fall when everyone had just seen how good he was and wanted him with that SEC badge on his jersey. So, bringing in good guys, very important, but also the ability to keep them. I think Iowa State's going to succeed through the portal, and I'm not too worried about being ranked 6th, in this 2026 recruiting class. I think we got good guys. I really do. And speaking of good guys, we got some good guys coming up with this basketball team next year. I can't wait to see what they accomplish because I think it's going to be big things. We're talking about it coming up right after this. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I am a huge fan Tyrese Haliburton right now, obviously showing Iowa State in a tremendous light for the Pacers, something I'm tracking heavily and will do in FanDuel as well. If you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we got to transition now from football to basketball. But honestly, we've kind of had this conversation, and I believe it won on the poll that I put out. Iowa State, a basketball school. So, here we go. Jamarion Bateman, some Twitter highlights. I came across my feed, and I was immediately fired up. This Iverson Classic, dropping 27 points to lead team honor. That's exciting. This is by Capital Hoops, talking about he had 17, 7, and 4 in the U.S. All-Stars. But what stood out to me was they had an interview with him, this Central Hoops guy, and asked him, like, what do you – just traditional things about the game and the practices and whatnot. But then also asked him about Iowa State, and his first comment was defense. And I was like, okay. This guy is going to be good. A lot of excitement from me when you hear first word, when you kind of equate Iowa State defense. Like, that's amazing. I love that. So definitely had other things to say. Like, Otts is going to give him the opportunity to showcase his offensive talent as well. But as far as Jamarion Bateman goes, excited to play defense, which is important to the Iowa State kind of way. Watch the highlights. Sharpshooter, could get to the rim. Had a nice little kind of turnaround fadeaway jumper as well that rattled in. I'm excited about this guy, but he's not the only one. And so I was looking at all the guys that are going to be on Iowa State's roster. And as far as freshmen goes, there's a couple of them. Jamarion Bateman, Killian Torrey, Xavier Mitchell, Dominicus Plata, and Anthony Rise, based on this one I'm reading right here. Dominicus Plata is a name that I think is going to be very good for the Cyclones. I really, really do. But the final rankings of this 2025 class or whatever it is came out. I guess they're not going to be touched again. And we've got 2 in the top 100 in Jamarion Bateman at 74 and then Xavier Mitchell from Wisconsin as well, Oshkosh, at 83. So 2 of the top 100s, both from Wisconsin. Super cool. That pipeline seems to be heating up for the Cyclones. But looking at that roster, I am still reeling a little bit from last season, how that ended. But this roster it's going to be good. We're missing, obviously, Curtis and Keyshawn, two big, kind of don't love that. And then Deshaun Jackson going to Pitt. Not ideal either on the inside. And I know I've gotten comments about like how many guards this team has. Yes, you want bigs and you want that rebounding kind of side of things, but I mean, take you down memory lane a little bit here. When I was like a fourth grader and played basketball, we were like the shortest team, but we won every tournament. Now, granted, it's in small town Iowa, so take that for what it's worth. But we were just known as the speedy team that could shoot, run the floor. It didn't really matter if we needed rebounds because we were making stuff, getting to the hoop. And then we basically just outpaced people. And so I wonder if that's kind of something that could happen here. Joshua Jefferson, obviously the big on the inside. I just want to see less turnovers from him. Nate Heisey, the only super senior on this list from the Cardinal and Gold report. But Tamin Lipsey and Eric Mulder, the two other seniors. Now, we're going to want to win a title for Tamin Lipsey. I feel like he is like the greatest story, maybe in sports. Ames kid, hardworking. He's kind of like a hockey player in the way that he battles through injury. So I want to win it for Tamin Lipsey, but also Cade Kelderman, like we said, now on scholarship. Milan, do I even need to say his last name? Momchilovich, Mason Williams, and Blake Buchanan. A couple transfers there as juniors. I think that's a really solid junior class. And then the freshmen, Jamarian Bateman, Killian Torre, Xavier Mitchell, Dominicus Plata, Anthony Rice. The way I'm looking at this roster, like, I don't know how we don't at least try or put ourselves in a position, put ourselves in a position to win the Big 12. I think that this team is just based off the names and based off of, rankings and what we've seen from guys in the past. Like, I think Mason Williams will be really good for this team. Dominicus Plata, I think it is a name that a lot of people are going to learn very quickly. And honestly, like, I actually think he might be too good to where he'll be sought after by other schools, and that's just going to have to be like, hey, once you come to Iowa State, you got to stay here. If you're listening, Dominicus Plata, you got to stay. All right. And I think he'll be very, very good. Same thing with all of these guys. Like, I think they're all going to be good. It's just that Dominicus Plata, nobody really talks about it. And so I am ringing that bell now. If I'm wrong, I guess, but I don't think I will be. As far as, Eric Mulder, Blake Buchanan, I don't have as good of a feel on them as I do Mason Williams, but still obviously brought into town for a reason. And that's the other thing too, is like, do you remember how Curtis Jones performed before he came to Iowa State? I mean, we do, but most people probably don't because he wasn't putting up huge numbers. He wasn't like the top portal target. Came to Iowa State. I think he was averaging like maybe 6 points. And then every accolade basically ever handed to him this year because dog, right? And so that's what Iowa State and Otzelberger can do is turn some of these guys that maybe no one's really heard of into superstars, at least in the Big 12. And so I'm very excited about not only the portal additions, but these freshmen as well. Obviously, well-ranked in Wisconsin in the top 100, Dominicus Plata, somebody that I am personally looking out for. Anthony Rise, Xavier Mitchell, Killian Torre, Jamarian Bateman. Very exciting freshman class there. But I also think Mason Williams, then Momchilovich and Lipsey. Nate Heisey came into his own at the end of last season as well. Very exciting roster. Can we get all these guys to come down to lead? Get a little pickup game going. I could ref it. I can play it. If they want to dunk on me, that's fine. But I want to see them play. I want to see what these guys are capable of because I think it's like basically whatever they want, they can get, they can have. That's what my feeling on the situation is. That's all for today, folks. So be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all it is, in fact, a Cyclones state. And come back tomorrow for more Cyclones coverage with Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.